Fast forward, you can more our channel so I say AGH Politics Avenue. Podcast starts at training because we get headlines. And a jembra near the Exomo, Ewa, say, Nidim Niam Brasium. Say, any AD can you stress with my subscribe to the channel, hit notification bell, also share. Now for from so answer into me. Nidima, Wunia, Yembo Imra, a political highway cinema, Ijadema, and Yasam Kutuakra. And New Day TV3, so, and I'm not say, a year. Kukudama omukushiaye ene nyasam koto akra onuya eye mixing containers a etimi eyira e free eye pot abra beduru gan hakse no na omu kyerɛ sɛ edin ahodo a apiepie mu no omu hwɛ na omu emfa eye mmrakwa so a me no ka sɛ ye nuanom MPP fo ɛho ɛhyehye wo mu a onuya enye asem koto akra na ho amo no mbobo mudin na ho amono mutu atwi hwan do ko gina eye emra no na emra no eno adi abadwafo atranse abra omobo yinkyiremu at this point in time Mr. say you mo ransem ni mu ne hwe ne yekɔ ene de eba
recklessness of people we put into public office. I'm saying once again that the biggest problem that impedes us in whether or not we can successfully exit the IMF program, because when you take all the other indicators, we are massively on track.
We're on track on energy.
We're massively on track. But I'm saying that where we have a massive shortfall is the energy sector debt.
That's true. Yeah.
And that we could have exited this year.
That's true.
But that's where we have the biggest shortfall. And I'm saying that, you see, accountability also means letting people know that there's consequence for their actions. Accountability doesn't only mean we asking you, but where there are clear infractions that has caused losses to the state, then there must be consequences. There must be consequences. So these people who clearly have made procurements, clearly without the interest of the state in mind, who've made procurements of things that we clearly did not need, who have gone outside the scope of their mandate. Are we just going to ask them some few questions at the Parliament Accountability Forum and let them go scot-free? Certainly not. Because we are building a political culture. And in that building of our political culture, there is a burden on all of us as Ghanaians to shift what fuels our politics and what fuels our politics ought to be. And when I say politics here, I don't mean just being in power, but also being in opposition. I mean the journalists, I mean the CSOs, anybody who claims they are practicing politics ought to understand that their only mandate, whenever they are taking decision, is in this action I'm taking, how does it build a strong state? This decision I'm taking, how does it inure to the well-being of the citizens? So that if the answer to both questions are no, then that person ought to be far away from politics. And we can only build that culture, we can only create that system where people who claim they're doing politics will do same with the two considerations of building a strong state and create a situation where the well-being of the citizens are protected. If we begin prosecuting people who are doing parochial politics, and we can use the ICG issue as a starting point.
I say.
We need to go after them. Anybody who must go after all these people who are doing stomach politics and have made themselves rich, we must go after people we put there to checkmate them. So was there no audit done? That it for 8 years this has gone on, and you have to take a fresh government for these issues to come up. Listen, people, that's why we formed the UP Plus. Yes, and one of our core mandates is want to bring decency into politics, to do politics that has the interest of Ghana at heart, and that's why our motto is Ghana first.
UP Plus.
That's why. Yeah, because we need to change how politics is done in Ghana. We told you that if the NDC do things and we feel is right, we will say it. And I've been saying it when they've done things. Because that politics of opposing everything government is doing doesn't make sense to me. Because then the question is, why are you doing the politics? Is it that you just want the power and don't even know how to use the power? Then when you've done that, then when they're also going off track, then you have the credibility to oppose. Because what fuels you is the interest of the country. And so to end, and I'm glad my learned friend is here. no mercy for the cripple. But they are not cripples. No mercy for the evil. Let's go after these people and let's make sure that we start a process of making people know that there are consequences for your actions.
Yeah. Well, nobody has been prosecuted for a very long time. I think the last time we had some prosecution of assault in relation to misapplication of funds or making approvals of such nature was the Chachu Chikata case. Of course, it's come under dispute many times as well because he's exonerated. Abuga Pele.
Yes, by his own government.
For poorly supervised.
By his own government.
Okay. So at the end of the day, Dr. Tutubuanyi, we need to take a real look at this. Is that not it?
Yes. So once again, good morning to our viewers and good morning to yourself and my co-panelists. Yes, I think that for me, I don't really condone and connive with corruption. And so any other matter relating to corruption, I would probably want to see a government or a country where corruption becomes a kind of, something that is hated. And it is not something that we actually entertain. I think about 2 weeks ago, we saw in China that a minister was involved in corruption and he has been sentenced to death.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that tells you that the kind of punishment that comes with, corruption in certain parts of the world is something, that would serve as a deterrent to the younger generation coming up. And so that is what we want to see. And I think that I agree with Lawyer Pierre Dankwa that if anyone, has been cited, if anybody has been mentioned, the courts must deal with the person and due processes should be followed. And these people should be brought to book. But you see, Roland, the fact still remains that in as much as we talk about politicians, I think that we are equally forgetting about, the administrators, people who work with UCG, the technical people, the professionals who are in there, and the kind of, procurement breaches that sometimes they tend to cause. I see no reason why a whole procurement officer of UCG would sit down and probably sit unconcerned for items to be procured, and you are telling me that you cannot even trace it. I find it a bit fascinating. And that talks about probably the level and caliber of people that we put in public positions. Now, because the little knowledge that I have about procurement is that when we are going through negotiations and all the procurement processes, one thing that you should be doing is probably to be in the same line with an agency that is involved in the procurement processes. Besides that, if you are dealing directly with a supplier, you should be able to track communication, track whatever you have procured until it gets to your doorstep. And so I feel that, yes, politicians probably might have caused certain damages. But again, what about the professionals who are in there? So if you are going to cause, causing financial loss, you are going to call for causing financial loss, the law to be triggered. We must not just limit it to the politician. Those people who are paid every month, to deal with procurement issues should also be called to answer some of these questions. And we don't need to leave them to sit just like that and probably shift all blames to the doorstep of the politician. You see, I am a teacher. If I go to class and I'm teaching and I'm not teaching well, if students complain, obviously my VC will not be happy with me. All right. And even though when there is a damage, the name of my VC will be mentioned. But again, the lecturer who stands in the class to teach the students is equally, at fault. All right, because VC will not go and teach. All right, he is involved more in administrative issues. And I am the lecturer. I must make sure that I impart knowledge. So if I am not imparting the right knowledge and my students are not faring well, they get to the job market and they are not performing, then obviously I have failed in my capacity as a lecturer. My core duties, I have failed in it. And so I believe that, look, Roland, we are moving this country into another level of economic development, right? And it is very important that we revisit our laws, we revisit our regulations, the level of professionalism, the code of ethics, and all that are running professional bodies and institutions. We need to beef it up. Besides, look, our laws are too relaxed to the extent that somebody commits an offense and we find a way of sort of protecting that individual. And I feel that these things will not take us anywhere. Look, Lawyer Pierre Dankwa was talking about the energy sector debt, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that our ability to recover from, the economic downdrams, right, probably will be hinging on our ability to deal with this energy crisis. Why is it that every year it's either ECG or Ghana Water Works? Why? Almost every time. Do you remember the time that Ghana Water Works procured, items which would be needed 10 years? You remember? They procured items up to a period of 10 years, forgetting that even expiry date would affect the items. And they were careless. So if you cause such kind of carelessness, do you think that we should leave you to go scot-free?
Yeah.
Lawyers, you talk about the veil of incorporation.
Yeah.
All right. And at what time must we deal with that veil of incorporation? When you have willfully, deliberately caused an action which probably would bring more debt to a country. So you say that you did that in the interest of the nation. And so what? I think that our laws should be strengthened. The implementations of our laws should be followed to the latter. And it is not a matter of the fact that this person is a politician and that person is not a politician. For me to end, let me again reiterate this point. We keep saying that, you see, when you extend politics into administrative issues, these are some of the things that you get. All right. Obviously, governments come, presidents have so much power, they appoint people based on partisan lines with little regard to professional capabilities and abilities. When it happens like this, you end up putting people into certain offices, especially sensitive areas like procurement, and they would underperform and they would leave such huge debts on the country. And when that happens, the ordinary person selling ice water or pure water on the street is the one who is going to suffer. So I want to believe that if we want to build a country where, we appears to be strong, in terms of our economy, in terms of public sector performances and all that, these are some of the indicators we need to tackle. And I believe that when we are able to do that, it will save this country a lot of, rots.
All right. Dr. Samuel Efriye.
Yes, Roland, I'm here.
You've been following the subject matter of the ECG containers and the procurements that have been made thereof, even though they were not needed within the period that the purchases had been done, or the supply, so to speak. To the point that even those containers were told had resulted in ECG incurring a lot of costs because of demurrage. What do you say to that?
Yes, Roland, Greetings to you and your the co-panelists as well. You know, when some of these issues comes in and you hear these politicians talking tough, sometimes we wonder how the end will be. For me, we have made corruption attractive in our country, that successive government will come in, will tend to accuse each other with an act when there's a change in government. But at the end of the day, you see that nothing serious is being done. I'm wondering whether in our constitution or in our laws, we don't have these kind of the Chinese act of firing squad or killing people when they found them culpable of these corruptible acts.
Yes. Ghanaians don't want to hear that.
And I think that we can have a tough measures. I agree to Dr. Tutu that the punishment for corrupt politicians or even technocrats, I think is not enough. It's not so tough to deter that these corrupt individuals will be a deterrent, and that is where the focus should be. Because if you look at the ECG, you know, we will talk about the economic issues that even the government is striving a lot on the economic. If you are not careful, the energy sector will derail all these achievements. And you can base on the forecast that if there's no energy reforms, by 2026, there will be a debt of $2 billion for the energy sector. So if things are not, if we don't have a good governance system for the energy sector, seriously, it will affect the economic stride of this government. And that is why I believe that the politicians, sometimes they talk tough. I'm just saying that, and I know that maybe the Honorable Abu Jinapo George Jinapo can try to do his best on these actions, because it tends to be coming too normal of some of these things that people will be found culpable and at the end of the day, nothing will be done. When you look at the contracts that have been signed, 347, of which 202 has been abrogated at no cost and also no legal issue, then it means that efficiency, because World Bank has reported that if things are not done well, in inefficiency in our energy sector, still these things will be hanging on our neck. So, Roland, what I'm saying is that we need to be tough on corrupt officials. When you look at the report that we go on these, what we call it, parliament, when they go, some of these statements, when they make, you see serious and these petty mistakes, and you see big man, chief executive, accountant, making these mistakes as if that, and they have their guys to come and do some of these reports. And sometimes you ask yourself whether there's a professionalism about some of these work career or what the work that they are doing. Dr. Tutu and I, we lecture. Our student assessors, if you're going for promotion, they just use the report of the students to assess you for your promotion, even the public sector. So if I don't do well, I cannot sustain myself as a lecturer or as a teacher. So in our governance system, in some of these public institutions, we are making things attractive for corrupt officials, and that is what is affecting not only ECG, but other. But we need tough ministers, politicians, and also technocrats. And I think if these things are done, we can make a lot of strides in these sectors. If not, Roland, I'm sorry that we might be talking loosely at the end of the day and nothing will happen as well.
Procurement infractions, 2018, it was 3 billion. That is the ones that were irregularities not recovered or recoverable, etc. Irregular, whether it's because of over invoicing or, you know, etc. And well, by 2020, it was 12 billion, 2017, 2021, 17 billion, 2022, 15 billion, Then we went down 2023, 8 billion. Then election year 2024, we hit 18 billion. I mean, that's the quantums as we have it. Now,
we and some hold with Timmy course or channel, so I'm not so Jim Wahada. Send us all body any day, don't be a dominion. You were saying, near some consum. Aha, AGE Politics Avenue.